Fellas, is it gay to be a man? Romance leads to relationships. Relationships lead to marriage. Marriage leads to babies. Babies lead to financial ruin. Why are none of you attractive? Dude, I think I might be more autistic than I thought. Holy. Why, hello there. Welcome. I have a bit of a question for you. When you gawk upon my visage, are you attracted by my goopy nature? Well, if that's so, you might very well be not straight. The question that we're asking ourselves today, what does it mean to be straight, not straight, and identifying as things that aren't the social norms? And Jaiden Animations has made a video quite some time ago going over this, and I thought it'd be rather amusing to understand the notion of being a little bit Kappa pride. So let's sit back and enjoy a good old Jaiden Animations video, shall we? God, imagine not being straight. How cringe. Fellas, is it gay to be a man? I mean, you've literally got a dick attached to your body. Fellas, is it gay to breathe? I mean, you're literally inhaling dick particles. Honestly, I'm not sure, so I need Jaiden to explain it.
Ground rules. This is probably going to be the most open I'll ever get about my
rules of the squares.
Life. I know I've shared tidbits of myself and life through little stories, but when it comes to personal stuff, I'm very private, especially within the past few years. I'm going to be talking in very general surface level terms because specific personal details are for me to know and in the nicest way possible.
Isn't it crazy that Jaiden was brave enough to make a video about the parasocial experience? Of all the things, like, as a content creator, sharing even the slightest thing about your personal life opens up a gateway for potential nonsense. So, bravo, Jaiden, for being as brave as you are. Even if at the end of the day, you know, being not straight is possibly the most obvious thing that could have come out of this. So, you know, just imagine being straight to begin with.
This is something I want to talk about, share, and bring a spotlight
to. Be bisexual. Be greedy.
But at the same time, you get the Cliff Notes version. So no trying to assume or guess anything beyond what I'm sharing within this video. At the end of the day, we're all just strangers refusing to listen to the stranger danger rule. All right, formalities aside, let's get into it. I've come to realize that I'm aro-ace, which stands for aromantic asexual. And I know what you're thinking. That's not gay. What the hell is that?
That sounds like a made-up word.
That's completely fair, because I didn't know what that was either. Aromantic and asexual are two different things, and I'm gonna break them down to you separately, starting with...
I mean, it's... Okay, so there's a thing in this that kind of sits with me, and I get it. There's difference between sexual preference and sexuality, and, like, I know that people can get really weirded out by, like, there's too many, like... there's too many ways of, like, addressing yourself. It's not really that, it's not that people are trying to, like, dissect and convolute the idea of sexuality. It's just that there's such a spectrum that people identify themselves on, you know? You can be gay, lesbian, bi, whatever. But within that, there are different ways that you can orientate yourself. And it's not that this stuff has never existed, it's just that nowadays people are much better expressing themselves and people have quantified different ways of wanting to be perceived. So it's not that this stuff has never existed, it's just we live in a time now where people have the openness and ability to actually openly state, this is how I feel, and that there's a word and a situation that describes how I feel. Just saying.
Aromantic, because no one really knows what that one is. And also, it's my personal favorite. Someone who's aromantic is defined as a person who...
You know what's kind of weird, really? I might come across as the...
Emotional damage!
I might come across as the biggest, like, gooner imaginable. And you're absolutely goddamn right. But I'm actually borderline asexual. I don't need sex in my life to exist. I could, so long as I've got games and friends, that's all I could really ever need. I mean, sex is good and sex is great, but I don't need it.
Who feels very little to no romantic attraction to anyone at all. So, like, they might not develop crushes on people or feel the need to be in a romantic relationship with anyone. Very general
like,
terms,
sex is
but
good.
Hopefully you kind of
But
get
have you
the
played
gist.
video
If not,
games?
Here's a little story example from me. Growing up, I never developed crushes on anyone. I remember when I was in 5th grade, kids were talking about their crushes left and right.
It's funny. This seems to go hand in hand with being on the spectrum. Oh, you're ADHD or autistic? Tell me how you have no sexual preference whatsoever.
And it was starting to feel like something I had to
Or
experience
are
too,
hypersexualized.
just because
When you're on the spectrum, like, I have never met an ADHD or autistic person who's purely straight.
I thought that's just what happens. Don't make fun of 9-year-old me. I was a sheep. Anyway, I decided I needed to have a crush because that's just what happens to people. And I very robotically chose this random kid in the class who we can call Pikachu. That's not his name. He didn't mean anything to me, and I
Damn, falling in
didn't
love
do
with the
anything
Pikachu?
about this crush. Like, I didn't tell anyone or anything. It was just a headcanon thing for me to feel up to speed and like I was hitting my
People
normal
on the
human
spectrum with
emotions quota. But it's
neurodivergency,
funny,
not
'cause on
understanding
Valentine's
emotions or
Day,
why
you know how in
or
elementary
comprehending
school, everyone would bring cheesy
emotional
Walmart
validation?
Valentine's cards for everyone in
Crazy!
the class, and then you'd have a box full of candy and hollow emotion.
Autistic ADHD people over-analyzing things and not trying to compromise that emotions are something that's more than something analytical and comprehensive as a formulated thing. Whoa, man, overthinking emotions and trying to like quantify them as a expression of formula. Whoa, it couldn't be me.
From everyone. Well, my school did that. When I went through my box, I pulled out Pikachu's Valentine and thought to myself, someone who has a crush on someone would keep this. I think. So I put Pikachu's copy-paste Batman Valentine in my drawer and promptly forgot about it because it meant nothing to me, but hey, that's just what I thought I was supposed to do. Man, I'm so good at this. Then like a year or so later, when my mom was going through my room, she pulled out the card and was like, why do you have this? And I was like, honestly, I have no idea. Years passed, I entered junior high
Love's
and thought to
complicated.
myself, all
Why
right,
do love
this
when
is the
video
time where people
games?
start developing crushes and then do something about it.
Love's
Like,
cool,
get
but
into
have you seen
relationships
Hatsune
or
Miku?
something. So I was like preparing to be interested in people. On the first day of school, I scoped out the room to see if
You know, it's really interesting seeing this from Jaiden's perspective, because this is from somebody who's like very obviously neurodivergent, and love and emotions are perceived very differently by people who have autism, ADHD, anyone who is neurodivergent. Being somebody who is definitely ADHD with some minor elements of autism, I very much resonate with this, because like, to me, it's like a priority thing. I love people. I love being around people. I love being happy. But the concept of love seems like it's like a priority, right? To most neurotypical people, love is elevated. But to people who are on the spectrum, to people who are ADHD, that perspective of emotion and priority of emotion is skewed. To people who are sort of neurodivergent, they see love and emotion in differing levels, which is what deviates them to being asexual, to being maybe aromantic, demisexual. Most neurotypical people have this perspective of love being such a high priority that they put so much weight behind it. To people like me, to people who are ADHD or whatever, we see it as just a thing, a formality, something that is on the same level or less relevant than other things. And it's such a fun little thing, because I never really thought that I was ADHD. I never really thought I was on the spectrum. But when I started realizing just how much weight other people were putting into love and their romance, I started realizing, am I different? Am I the one who's neurodivergent? Why does everyone else treat love and romance so excessively? Man, I don't have time for that. I'm too busy drawing anime.
Wait, did you know that we have a Discord and a Twitch? No? Well, now you do. So what are you waiting for? Why don't you click those little links over there and be part of the fun? Just like the rest of us cool kids, you know what I'm saying?
if there was anyone that I thought
Blah,
looked like
thank you for
someone I
resub.
could develop a crush on. And this was when classes started
Like,
being
it was such a
divided up into
wild and
periods, so
foreign
there were, like,
concept to
6
me. And that was
batches
kind of
people
definitely the
sifted
point
through,
I
but
realized
no
that
one
I
caught
was
my eye,
not
and I thought,
exactly straight
"Man,
and definitely not
unlucky."
normal.
Went through the whole school year, next year rolled around, classes changed, I did the same potentials crush scoping again, and the same thing happened. I wasn't drawn to anyone at all. Man. Unlucky again. Every year I thought something would change, especially going into high school when people started actually hitting puberty and were getting
Hey, you know what? This is what a cause and effect thing is. You're really saving yourself. You know, crushes lead to romance. Romance leads to relationships. Relationships lead to marriage. Marriage leads to babies. Babies lead to financial ruin. If you don't burden yourself with babies and romance, you save yourself a lot of money. That money can be spent on things that are more important, like Hatsune Miku tickets, and anime, and hentai, and games, and your friends, and spending good times.
Conventionally attractive, but my entire school life,
I wonder what my life would have been like if I had a kid by now.
Which I'm pretty sure is like 13 years.
I'd probably be broke.
I wasn't interested in a single person throughout any of it. And what's funny was
having a kid that you got to look after for 18 years.
Why
or that
is
new
no one
graphics
attractive?
card.
And I went to a big high school. There were like 3,500 students there. Surely I am not the outlier in this formula. Why are none of you attractive? By the time I was going to college, I really felt formula. Why are none of you attractive?
I need that as a chaos clip. I need that as a chaos clip. Why are none of you attractive?
By the time I was going to college, I really felt like I had to find someone. It felt like I was falling behind the
That's
curve,
pretty much what
or
I
if
say to
was
everyone who
gonna
sends me a
find
dick
someone,
pic.
It was gonna have to happen now. I made a lot of new friends, and that's when I thought I developed my first genuine crush. Long story short, in hindsight,
You see, there's a big problem here, and this comes back to like being on the spectrum. A lot of people who are neurodivergent, it's not that they don't feel romance, it's more that they muddy the perspective of romance, and it's hard for them to like correlate feelings to whether it's romance or not. Like, I know it's like they sit there questioning, is this romance? Is this person okay, this person is talking to me. Okay, so they're talking to me. Do they love me? Are they romantically attracted to me? It's like the perspective of emotions is cloudy. We don't see things in a yes or no. There's always that hesitation. It's always overly analyzed. And because of that, it makes it hard for a lot of people on the spectrum to kind of like interpret those emotions. And it's why a lot of people who are on the spectrum tend to seem to be quite parasocial, because they don't understand how to process those emotions or internalize them. So why bother trying when you know it's not something that matters to you begin with?
no, it wasn't a crush, and I was just wrong. I just met someone who I thought was
And then you start
cool
questioning
and
your
funny
own feelings.
And had a really strong
Okay, I like
desire
this
to be
person. Wait, do I
close
like
to
this
them,
person or do I
but
love
looking
this
back,
person?
Knowing what I do
Does it
now,
matter? No.
It wasn't in a romantic way. I realized I can get very excited and tunnel vision on people I think are really cool or interesting, and kind of obsess over getting to know.
That is one of the biggest signs of ADHD. People with ADHD will hyperfixate on people just as much as they hyperfixate on things. Like, they see somebody who gives them attention and they instantly see them as like, oh my god, they're giving me attention. This is a good dopamine hit. They're going to be the single focus of my entire life, and I'm going to get immensely committed to this person's existence.
Know them or just want to
Twitch
spend a lot
viewers.
of time with them. But whenever I got into those tunnel vision moments, if I sat down and asked myself if I actually wanted to be in a relationship
This isn't so much
with
a
them and
talk
hold
about
hands
being
or
about
cuddle or
sexuality as
kiss,
it is
the
how
answer
much you
was
are on the spectrum.
Not really. But if they wanted to, I could go.
It's funny how much neuronormalcy goes hand in hand with your sexuality. I think it's actually really fascinating. Like, nobody really puts two and two together a lot of the time, but when you really look into it, your neurotypicality is so directly correlated to how your sexuality ends up being.
Go along with
Because it's all about how your emotions
which I do not think
interpret
is right.
internally.
In my very old flirting video, which I refuse to rewatch, I think at one point in it, I said something along the lines of, if you're interested in someone but they just want to be friends, I don't understand why some people can't deal with that. And that was primarily because I didn't realize there was an emotional difference between a crush or falling in love and just being really good friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, if the textbook definition of ADHD could please stand up. There we go. Perfect.
Someone.
Definitely
So, oops, sorry for the bad
ADHD
take, I
autistic
think.
spectrum.
I really just thought having a crush on someone was wanting to be their #1 best friend. Look, I said don't make fun of me. To me,
Can that not be the way it is? Why does love have to fall into a box? Why does love have to be black and white? Why does love have to bloom even on the battlefield?
It used to feel like if I was wanting to become friends with someone to that high of a degree, that would be the next.
I think this is equal parts relevant to the state of someone's mind and neuronormalcy, but also a level of education within social norms. Like back in the early 1900s, before the modern generation we live in, you know, love was educated as a man loves woman, woman loves man, and this is exactly how you love man and woman, and this is what you do when you love someone. Whereas with
Gordon, hotted boobs up ahead, tits big ones.
where? But nowadays, because of how free we are, because of how open things are, because of how much we're exploring ourselves, those limitations of what things used to be like have kind of fallen away. So now, if you want to be a man and you love another man, if you want to be a woman who becomes a man who loves a woman who then loves another man who's also loving two other men at the same time whilst individually being neurodivergent, then you can damn well do that. Because the confines of what used to be love is falling away and there's kind of just not enough education about that kind of stuff. But still,
step or justify why I wanted to put this much time, effort, and energy into one person. And it didn't feel right or even fair going through all of this with someone and then tell them they're just a friend. I don't know, it just didn't feel like it made sense.
You are a boy who just
really
happens to be a friend.
Technically see them in a romantic way. I just didn't understand what was going on really, or that there was supposed to be real emotion.
Okay, real question. Do you think a man and a woman can just be friends without it becoming romantic? This is a question that's so divisive. I never realized how divisive this question specifically was until like a couple of days ago when I heard two people arguing incessantly that one thought it's not possible and another person thought that it was stupid that you thought otherwise.
Instead of a logical understanding of steps. And the fact that
Like
I was under the
specifically,
assumption
can a man
that
and a
I
woman
was
be
supposed
friends
to be
without there
interested in
being
people in a
like
romantic
sexual
way
tension
didn't
between them?
help with anything. I always
One of these
preferred
people
to
straight
stay
thought they
good
couldn't,
friends,
and one of them was
but never felt like
completely
I could
against the
have
idea they
that,
could.
And I worried that if I said no, that we would just start drifting apart, which I obviously didn't want either. It's been a very long journey discovering this about myself. Everything I'm saying has all been extremely subconscious and not understood or defined for many
I want to say that the
years.
logical
I
side of it
even
would say
used to
yes,
think I
they
was
can
bi or
absolutely
pan
be
for
friends.
the longest time because I would think to myself, well, bi is being interested in both genders. I don't really care for either, but 0 is equal to 0, so I guess I'm bi or pan. I got math involved. If I knew it.
That is the most ADHD autistic thing I have ever heard. I got math involved with love. Just like me!
Aromanticism was when I was growing up, things would have been a lot less complicated for me a lot sooner. I think it's mainly because people don't really talk about it or even know what it is or that it's real. Romance and love is the #1 most talked about topic on the planet. Everything I've been taught or learned through
Like,
society
I find it,
is
the
that
whole
love
thing
and
about
romance
sexuality
is
and everything,
everywhere. Everyone
just because
feels
it's
it,
weird and
it's
outlandish
gonna
doesn't mean it doesn't
happen to you.
exist.
Just a funny
You may
little
not
note,
believe that
there was
like
a point
these
where I
different
was just-
sexualities are a thing. Sure, the broad spectrums of like straight, gay, lesbian are a big thing. Like you can see yourself on those spectrums, but within those, there's these other elements, and you may not put much validation to them. And being like ace, bearsexual, sapiosexual, whatever, they're just different subsects of within the sexual spectrum. It's just how people associate themselves to what they relate to. And being ignorant to that and chastising people for subsetting their sexuality is just so closed-minded. They're not being weird or whatever. They're just trying to find what fits for them the best.
Listening to some generic romance song on the radio, you know, like all of them, and I just suddenly thought to myself, wait, do people actually feel these things towards each other? Like all these mushy lyrics are real emotions? They're not joking? And that's when I started feeling like something was different. I approached romance under the blanket term thought of, sure, why not? And didn't recognize it was actually a feeling, which might sound stupid.
Feelings?
But look, I don't know.
Feelings are for
No one
bludgeoning your
presented
wife to
me
death with a
any
golf
other
trophy.
options. I did a lot of rationalizing. If someone ever expressed romantic interest in me, I would mentally make a kind of logical list of their pros and cons and the pros and cons of what a relationship
Damn, she
would look
just like
with
me.
them based on what I knew about them as a person. I didn't realize there was supposed to be an extra, like, excited feeling, or the fact that you're not supposed to think about it as if it were a business exchange. I understand compatibility is a huge important
friendships that aren't transactional? What the hell's that supposed to mean?
Someone, but at the end of the day, it's still apparently still a very emotionally driven thing. And I literally had to make that discovery and teach it to myself. Now,
I have never felt so called out in my entire life. Overly analyzing and trying to quantify emotions in a tactile form. Dude, I think I might be more autistic than I thought. Holy.
I'm gonna talk about being asexual very briefly, and I'm gonna preface it with, let's all just be mature about this, all right? We're all pretending to be adults here. I've got my eye on some of you.
Yeah, chat.
Behave. Okay, this is definitely treading into uncomfortable personal boundary territory for me, but yeah, I do want to share
bless
that
you,
I'm
Jaiden, for talking about
asexual
this.
too,
I think
which
people need to be
is
more
defined
open
as
to
someone
talking
who
about
feels
this kind of
little
stuff.
to no intimate attraction to anyone. Look, I know we.
So, like, for me, I definitely feel attracted to people. I definitely feel sexual gratification for people. But it's more of a priority to me. I don't need sex. I like keeping busy. And a lot of the times to me, sex is a distraction. Romance is a distraction. The time and whatever I could be putting into that, I could be being productive. Or doing something more functional. And I guess that kind of explains why I've always been more content just being by myself. Having friendships and being with people and not having to, like, take myself away for, like, sexual gratification. Because I've never, like, I feel pleasure from sex. I feel pleasure from being romantic with someone. But it's not something I need to feel like I need to be as a person. But hey, sex is good.
We said we're all adults, but I'm still gonna dance around the vocabulary, all right? Yes, there's a difference between romantic and intimate attraction. Little side note, I will say you can experience romantic
I guess I'm just greedy because I can definitely be romantic and definitely feel romanticized towards someone if it's the right person.
Romantic attraction. You can be one and not the other. It's not
This is what I'm talking
necessarily
about.
a package deal. Most people feel both, and I do not feel either. Anyway, I have never been magnetically attracted to the look or shape of a single person in my entire life, and did not realize it was a real thing until very recently. I'm able to identify when someone looks conventionally attractive, like by textbook
Oh, there you go,
definition,
overanalyzing things again.
I never people are genuinely drawn to people they think are attractive. I didn't know that people could just see someone and be like, wow, they're gorgeous. I would love to get to know that person, or maybe go on a date with them,
Woo-woo.
or whatever else you people do. I didn't think it was real. I thought people were exaggerating or something. I don't know. And I also couldn't believe that some people feel that with multiple people. Or like celebrities, which sounds absolutely exhausting.
Yeah, so I'm not like that level. I think for me it's more of a, again, for me it's more of a priority thing. I definitely feel sexual gratification. I definitely have that romanticism. It's just, I'm also content to not. Like at the moment, I have amazing partners. I am in a romantic relationship. I do feel love. But if I wasn't, I'd be happy being alone. Am I better off being in a relationship? Yeah. Am I happy being in a relationship? Absolutely. It's just, I guess it's like I see the other end that Jaiden's coming from.
It ties back to when I was in school, like looking around for people to like. It makes sense now that no one caught my eye because that doesn't happen to me. I was just wasting my time for 13 years. I feel like such a fool. Now, there's an easy assumption to make about asexual people and that they all have zero interest in being intimate with anyone
Love
at
is
all,
cool, but
which
how about
actually
beating a
isn't
boss in
true.
Dark
Some
Souls?
of them are
Hell
genuinely
yeah!
turned off by it, and some aren't. Some reasons would be that they just don't mind it, or they want to make their partner happy, or enjoy the emotional closeness of it. There's a million different reasons and a million different people. Am I sharing what kind of a people I am? Nope. And you don't know me personally enough in the slightest to be able to try and parasocially analyze where I stand on that spectrum.
Chat.
I'm just here to say I am this, we are moving on. When I stumbled onto the term aro ace and started realizing I fall into that category, it helped me feel much more confident and sure of myself. I've read a lot about how people say
Oh
they
boy,
felt
the delights of
broken
finding
or
the
that
label that
something
helps
was wrong with them.
represent you.
But honestly, I was the complete opposite. Coming from my very biased perspective, I think aro ace is one of, if not the coolest and most confident orientations out there. Not needing a single gram of romantic or intimate validation from anyone is so cool. All
yeah, you hear
need
that?
is
You
yourself to be happy,
neurotypical
maybe friends and family
straight people
too,
out there.
and birds. The more I came to terms with the fact I'm aro ace, the more empowered and capable I felt. But at the same
And that's what your orientation means. Your orientation isn't about you being divisive. It's what helps you feel the best version of yourself to identify who you are. It's not a sex thing. It's not you being divisive or trying to be like weird. People just need a way to identify themselves so they feel like they belong, to understand themselves.
same time, I was also starting to feel more alone and isolated. As cool and amazing and unique and awesome as I think it is, it can be really hard for other people to relate to or even understand. Everyone else and their orientations are able to bond and relate to the love and romance aspects, and we're over here like, we don't do that.
Every now and again, I see myself in one of these shots and I'm like,
I don't even know if I'm explaining it very well. It kind of does go against everything everyone's ever been taught about anything. Romance is taught to be a basic,
this is the kind of thing that
assumed
MatPat would make a
emotion,
game
which
theory
I do
about.
think is a bit misleading. A common argument used against the aro ace orientation is that romance and intimacy is what makes someone human. But I mean, I don't know, lots of birds made for life, which is a better ratio than people, and all animals get frisky. You know, that's just how they became not extinct. It's not an exclusive to humans thing.
And that's the thing, we're all wired differently, depending how we're brought up, depending on the environmental factors.
Like,
we're
I'm not an
all
emotionalist
brought up
monster.
differently.
I can still love people. I love my family and my pets, just platonically. And I would hope that you're the same. I just don't experience romantic
Sweet home of Alabama.
love, which I don't know. I don't think that's
Hey,
harming
Jaiden.
anyone.
Oh my
Definitely
god,
not me.
Golden Armor, thank you for the follow.
I'm having the time of my life. I don't think you need to be in a relationship to be happy. And if you don't want to be just on your own,
that a terminal
I think
montage
there's
reference?
many types of people in relationships that push the boundaries of what a conventional relationship looks like. Telling someone that they need to be in a romantic relationship to be happy and fulfilled is weird. And then when that person says
feeling
they're
all
not
kinds of
happy,
educated
they're
from this,
told
and it's helped validate my
relationships take a
existence.
lot of work, and that's just how it goes.
Guys, if you feel yourself,
And that's
if you see
also
yourself in
weird.
this
I
video,
don't
type
know.
1 in the
I
chat.
also think it's weird that once someone reaches a certain age, people inherently start thinking it's sad they're not in a romantic relationship, or assume they're lonely and
You know what? Fuck you guys. Whilst you guys are worrying about your finances, about how you're going to mortgage your house to afford a kid, I'm out here reveling in my life, living the single life because I've got money, because I didn't have to worry about affording a kid. And I get to play video games.
sad. No one thinks a child is sad and lonely just because they're not in a long-term relationship. I don't know. I don't get it. And I also think I'm rambling. At the end of the day, it's all very complicated to talk about these things, especially because I don't know the feelings
facing
I'm
those
supposed
mid-rolls.
to be feeling, let alone talk about. I just know for me, the terms aromantic and asexual are able to articulate things I was subconsciously feeling
what
and
I'm
thinking before I even
saying.
realized I was feeling and thinking them. I don't plan on talking about this very much, if at all, ever again. I just want to play my silly little video games, maybe tell a story.
What was
here
I
or
telling
there.
ya?
But I
What
wanted
was I
to
telling
bring
ya?
the orientations to the surface and try to get more
Sex is
representation
good.
out there, because I thought
But have
if I
you
could help more
scored
people
a
become more aware of
S-rank
this, then
hero in
that would
Zenless
be
Zone
awesome.
Zero?
I was confused as hell for a while and could have used something like this. It's a real thing. You don't have to feel any sort of romance or whatever to be
Golly,
considered
it's
a real
almost like we're
person.
moving up in the
Personally, I
world
think it's
where
really
we can
cool and
understand this
badass.
kind of
And don't
stuff
be
more.
afraid to look
And
more into
accepting people for their
aromanticism or
differences and
asexualism.
giving
If
people
any
an
of what I said in
articulate
this
way
video
of
resonated with you
resonating
to
with
any
things
degree.
is the way
Like
that we
I
should
said,
be
this is
going,
all
rather
very
than
surface
chastising
level
people for the
stuff.
way they
They're
want to
both
live their
much
lives.
larger spectrums than you'd think, and maybe you fall under some umbrella category with them. I don't know, or not. Either way, this has all been my personal experience with this stuff. Is there more
Like,
for me to figure out?
I could spend $500 on an abusive ex-girlfriend who wants me to buy her a ring for $500 so I could propose to her with that ring. Or I could spend that $500 on a Genshin Impact pull. One of those is going to be way more gratifying and long-lasting.
In it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. It can get pretty complicated and confusing. Haha, awesome. Will I be sharing any of that with you? Nope, no way. This is all you get. Hope you can understand even just a little of what I talked about. And if not, that's totally fine.
Or spend $500 on a
just hope
PlayStation?
you
Yeah,
can
and
be
play
nice.
no games.
Thanks for listening.
Cool! Always love a good Jaiden video. And if you saw yourself in this video, well, I'm sorry for the existential crisis. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!